Little camera station I have here. Okay. To this waxing moon medicine where we're going to talk about speaking our truth. So for those of you who are new to Periscope, welcome. This is only my second time here and I love it. It's such a beautiful way for us to connect. And so for those that are new, you just, anytime you resonate with something I say, or you want to say hello or send love, you just tap on your screen and it sends hearts and hearts. So hello from Asheville, hello, hello, hello. And you can type in, and as often as I can, they go really fast, but as often as I can, aloha from Maui. I still feel the aloha in me after being there for almost a month. Hello from San Diego. So you can keep typing, and sometimes I catch it, and sometimes it goes so fast that I'm not able to see it. Hello from the Bay Area and Seattle, Stockton, California. All these beautiful sisters. Costa Rica, hola, 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 chica. We have this vast amount of sisters gathering around who are really seeking very similar things, and so we welcome all of you. I'm so honored and privileged to be here. My name is Joanne Ameya, and coming from my backyard in Ojai, and we are going to talk about how to speak your truth and how to not just speak your truth, but to communicate that really effortlessly, beautifully, and powerfully. And it's a conversation that's pretty near and dear to my heart because I've had to go on a pretty deep journey of being able to communicate, and it's also something I see so many women struggle with that I want to support. Hi Val, I want to support you as much as I can. So before we begin, because we're coming from all over the place, let me just adjust this camera. We'll probably be here for about 30, 35 minutes. I mean, I can stay longer. Idaho, wow, welcome. I can stay longer if we're totally vibing and enjoying our time. And I also know it's the middle of the day for many of you, so if you have to scoot, I totally understand. I'm just so honored to get to be live with all of you and be in the present moment. So let's just take a moment to close our eyes, to breathe deep. Wherever you are, feeling your sits bones on your floor, on your chair, on the earth, feeling the presence of your body temple. And maybe placing one hand on your heart and one hand over your womb space. Again, just presencing these aspects of who you are, this place of unconditional love, this place of the divine feminine. And feeling the fullness and the gratitude that you showed up and that you're here. And taking 2 more deep breaths, just settling into yourself. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. And you can give hearts if you're feeling really grounded and present. I know sometimes it takes a little bit longer than that, but it's always nice to take that sacred pause in our day. So we're here to talk about communication. It's the waxing moon right now, which is very mental. There's a lot of mental activity. It's the time where we are coming out of the new moon and coming out of our internal spaces and expanding out. And also next week is the full moon in Gemini, and Gemini is all about communication. So it just felt like such a good time for us to be speaking about how to communicate, why it's so important, where we get stuck, and what we can do about it. So communication is so key for us because, I think this comes back to everything, is we are living in a time where we know the divine feminine is rising. And we know that we have to be in our empowered self in order to make really significant change on this planet. And part of that is being able to speak. So I know that many of you out there have lots to share, whether that's just in your home life or in your communities, whether that's with your partner or your children or the people you work with. We need to be able to communicate what's present in our hearts, what's most resonant in our heart space. So the throat chakra, which is right here, is really, the chakras kind of build on each other. They build up. So we start with the root, and the root facilitates the second chakra, and the second chakra facilitates the third. And so wherever there's blocks or challenges, the chakra above it is going to be compromised. But what I love about the throat chakra is that it's right above the heart. So it's really the access point for us to speak what's present in our hearts. And for a lot of us, that brings up a lot of fear. Who are we to speak that? Are we worthy of that? Anyone out there feel like they're not good enough to speak their truth, or no one's going to hear them? So you can put hearts whenever you resonate, because there are so many other women who are feeling exactly like you do. Yeah, tons of hearts. We have very similar stories in this sisterhood, that we don't feel worthy of speaking, or we don't think that people are going to receive it, or who am I to say what's on my mind, right? There's all these thoughts that go on and on and on in our head. But the throat is the access point from the heart. And so for those of you who are on a spiritual path, on a personal development path, for those of you who are calling in the divine feminine, who are embodying that divine mother presence, we have to be able to access the heart through our voice. And then what's even cooler is the third eye, which is the place of our visioning and part of our connection to spirit, sits right above the throat chakra. And so the more we use our heart and the more we speak, the more connected we become to the divine. So it's this really beautiful, beautiful way to look at why it's so important for us to speak our truth. I get lots of emails from women every day. And one of the things that I've been noticing lately, which is kind of why I pushed myself to do this Periscope, is I get a lot of emails from women where I'm not totally sure what they're saying or what they're asking. I can kind of read between the lines, I can make assumptions, but there's a way in which women, we think we're being really clear. Or we reach out to somebody and want to communicate, but something stops us from fully expressing, from fully expanding into ourselves. So sometimes I'm reading these beautiful, gorgeous, courageous emails from women, and I feel like there's an ask in there. I feel like they want to ask me something. They want to claim something for themselves. They want to embody a certain archetype or quality, and yet the ask isn't there. And so for me, on the other side, feeling the essence of what wants to come through, but not totally knowing. So I want to invite all of us to give ourselves the permission to totally ask for what it is that we want. So when those voices come up of I'm not worthy, or I don't want to disappoint somebody, or what are they going to think of me, or do I really need this? We say, okay, voice, I hear you. Is that coming from here, or is that coming from my heart? Because your heart space is the place we want you to constantly be coming from. The heart is the divine feminine. So when you feel you're not good enough, when you feel like you're not worthy of asking, when you feel like you're kind of fumbling around your communication, one of the best and easiest things to do is just to simply take a pause. Close your mouth for a second, put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your womb space, and just totally tune in to what is present for you. Sometimes we can simply say, hey, I'm actually having a really hard time communicating this, but here's what I want to say. Being truthful is the most gorgeous communication there can be. So when you find yourself holding back, take a sacred pause, connect to this body temple, feel into your heart, and then use that as your access point to communicate. It's scary, it's vulnerable, but ultimately it will give you the communication and then the reciprocity that you're looking for. And this is really important. So, again, communication is what's scary about it is it's very intimate, right? We have to really own what we're feeling, and we have to feel safe enough to own that with somebody else. So if we're talking about intimate relationships, this can be with a partner, this could be with your parent, this could be with a dear sister, anyone that you feel really intimate with, that you feel like you really want to share and express, but you feel scared. Anyone happen to have that experience? I do. um, we have to find the place of safety inside and know that we're not just being intimate with another person, we're being intimate with ourselves. So, one of the common stories that I hear a lot with my own students and with women on our retreats and women that I work with all the time, this woman is saying, yes, I totally hear you, sister. So, you are not alone. We all feel this level of guilt, shame, fear about being really intimate with our feelings. And for a lot of us, it comes from being little girls, and we were taught to be the people pleaser. I know I was. Oh, you're such a good girl. We try to fit in. And so we please everyone. And we grow up learning that's the way we do things. And so when we get into any sort of intimate relationship, there's a part of us that really wants to speak our truth. And that people pleaser also holds us back because we don't want to disappoint anyone. We don't want to hurt anyone. We don't want to let anyone down, yet the truth is we're letting our own self down. And actually, it's such an interesting thing because we actually end up torturing ourselves. We hold all these things in, like, oh, I'm not going to say that to my friend, I'm not going to say that to my partner, because it's just easier not to say anything. But then it percolates inside of you, and it eats up inside of you, and it's actually not easier. We end up really torturing, challenging our own selves to caretake somebody else's needs. So ultimately, this conversation is way deeper than just communicating and speaking your truth. This conversation is really about prioritizing your own self, prioritizing your needs, your desires, um, being able to get really intimate with yourself. So it's all these really deeper layers, um, which are really an invitation for us to do some deep healing on ourselves. So I wanted to give you a couple flower essences. I wanted to, hello from New York City. I wanted to give you some flower essences. I want to give you some other tools and tips that I use. Oh, I'm so glad you needed to hear this. This is exactly why I'm doing this, so thank you. Um, Recently, I went to see Brene Brown. So some of you who know her, she has her PhD in vulnerability. She's amazing. And she was doing a book tour for her new book that's coming out, or that's out. And I went to go see her, and she's amazing. I mean, she's all about being vulnerable, which is all like part of the conversation of being able to communicate. And her stories were amazing, but I walked away with one nugget that I really want to share with you that I started using and that I've been sharing with my clients as well. So one thing that happens for us is we think we're communicating. We come to our partner, we come to our boss, we come to our friend, and we've like worked hard at what we're gonna say, and we communicate. But sometimes the way we communicate is um, from a place of shame or blame or guilt of the other person, and we don't fully take responsibility for our own. Brene Brown is the vulnerability woman. Brene Brown. She's amazing. Her books, highly, highly recommend. Um, and so sometimes when we're communicating, thank you, we think we're being clear. We think we're taking ownership, but we're doing it kind of so-so. And we usually know how well we're doing it based on the reaction from our partners. So if you're communicating out of reaction, you get reaction, right? So if somebody hurts you and you drop into your 4-year-old self and you shoot back with your 4-year-old self, that other person drops into their 4-year-old self, and you're just in this wounded child space trying to communicate with each other. So that's one way we communicate. The other way is, like I was saying before, we think we're being really conscious, but we're not fully taking ownership, because to fully take ownership asks us to be completely transparent, completely vulnerable, and completely intimate. And for all of those things to happen, we have to feel safe. And safety is one of the key issues that so many women are working hard to build, to rebuild that foundation within themselves because of various things that have happened in your own life. So when we think about being vulnerable, one of the things that my clients often ask me is, I've said this to my partner, he's not really getting it, and so I ask them to tell me exactly in their words how they approached their partner, how they spoke, how they communicated. And most of the time, we are putting all of our stuff onto somebody else. So even when we say, I feel this when you do this, which is more of the conscious way to do it, it's not going deep enough. So what I learned from Brene Brown is so simple, and I'm so excited to share it with you. And like I said, I've tried it with my partner, and I've given it now to clients of mine. So she's sharing this whole story about this crazy situation that happened with her husband, where it actually wasn't a crazy situation, but in her mind, it spiraled out into the craziest scenario. And what she does is, when she goes there and she realizes she's about to communicate out of total woundedness or total fear or just any other place than from the heart, from empowerment, from love, she says to herself, and you can do this to yourself and you can also say it out loud. So she says it in herself, in her own process, and then she verbally said it out loud to her husband. She said, the story that I'm telling myself is, the story that I'm telling myself is. So let's say you're in something with your partner. Let's use your partner. And you're realizing you're not communicating well. You are coming out of anger and irritation, and it's because this 6-year-old is not being heard. It's because when you were 6, your father never listened to you. He didn't think what you said was important. He didn't think you were a priority. He never asked your opinion. He didn't take what you said seriously. Whatever your story is, we all have different stories. So let's say you're in this dynamic with your partner, and all of this is happening. And so you're getting really angry because you're not being recognized, you're not being seen, you're not being all of these things. So you just simply pause, and rather than just like, ugh, like I want to shake you, partner, and why can't you see me and hear me, and whatever happens for you in the reaction space, you simply say to your partner, the story that I'm telling myself is, I'm not important. I'm not valued. I'm not seen. And this is so vulnerable. I mean, we have to feel really safe to say this. The story I'm telling myself is, I'm not important. But can you imagine for a moment if we all operated from that place? Can you imagine if your partner came to you after, you guys got into a disagreement, and he said, the story I'm telling myself is, you would turn around with such deep compassion. You would see that 6-year-old, 4-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever age, and you would be able to then relate and communicate in such deeper, more conscious, more profound, more loving, more compassionate ways. So how does that sound to everyone? I mean, that's the place that I always want to be communicating from, and sometimes I'm really good at it, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes those wounds are just so deep I can't even see that I'm moving from them or I'm living from them, but it's so simple, and I would love to invite each of you to just try that for this next week, especially in the United States with Thanksgiving coming up, and really then all over the world, all the different holidays in December. And maybe you're triggered by being around your family. I'm just going to move my phone a little bit. the story that I'm telling myself is. And so, again, this can just be an internal thing that you do on your own. So, the story I'm telling myself is I'm not worthy. No one loves me. And then if you're doing it on your own, you can journal, you can dance, you can, whatever tools are in your medicine basket, I would highly recommend doing it. If you're doing it with somebody else, friend, a partner, it's invaluable. And it makes everyone pause, slow down, and reconnect. That's what we're all looking for when we're communicating, is a landing place, excuse me, a landing place of connection. So I hope that's helpful, and I want to hear if you do end up using it, because I think it's so simple and so profound. So, okay, couple recap. I resonate with this so much. Is there a book of Brené's Brown? Well, she just wrote this new book, way to really support. Hello from Los Angeles. We're just around the corner from you in Ojai. Um, so then there comes the piece of like, okay, I have all of these beliefs about what's possible for me and how to speak my truth. And how do I actually heal them? How do I release them? How do I move past them so that I can actually stand in my truth and I can communicate from a powerful place? Oh, you still want my necklace? This is from my beautiful sister in Maui. Her website is rubel.com. I wear all of her jewelry all the time. I love everything she makes. This is from her new collection called Venus Rising. Just a side note. So the flower essences. Okay. Some of my favorites. So again, we're looking at number one, being able to communicate, but also why we're not able to communicate. You know, what are your internal beliefs? What are your own patterns? Because that's actually the place, if you can touch into the root, you know, if you can touch into that root place, then everything else shifts. So instead of just looking at the surface of, oh, I want to communicate, it's like, well, why aren't you? What's underneath of that? Or is it you don't feel safe? Is it you don't feel worthy? Is it you don't feel seen? Is it that you, what is your reason? So I know for me, one of my reasons for not being able to communicate, I remember growing up and, you know, my mom saying, oh, you know, you need to go to the next door neighbor and ask for this and this and this, whatever it was. It could be something so tiny. And there was a part of me that felt like if I asked for something, and I asked for something that was maybe a little bit out of the box, then I wouldn't be liked. Or it would be outrageous. Like, who are you to ask for anything like that? And why would I do that for you? So these are some of my own inner beliefs that I had to move past. And I feel like I'm so much better at asking for what I need and asking for what I want and feeling like I can communicate, but there are definitely times where it's still a struggle. And so for all of you women out there, I see all the hearts, and I just know we are in this together. We are all working on this, but the world right now, as we know, really needs us to be able to speak and speak clearly and powerfully and potently, and that our come from is our heart. Because then we get to be the change in the world. There aren't tons of people, you know, we still live in a patriarchal world. There aren't tons of people who are totally speaking from love and who are doing it in eloquent ways. So this is our opportunity to not only do this in our individual lives, but to really change the collective. And, you know, again, I have talked about this before, but there's so many women on this planet who don't have the means to communicate. That if they communicated, they will be raped, they will be violated, they will be killed, they will be enslaved. This is still happening on our planet. And we get to be those women. So sometimes if you don't have the courage, you have to borrow it from somebody else. And sometimes if you still can't access what's inside of you, think about those young women who are still being enslaved and sent to, um, are part of the sex trafficking trade. They have no voice. So you, sister, have to be a voice in this world. It is like, I mean, it brings tears to my eyes because it is it is important in our individual lives, but the practice of communicating as the divine feminine, as the Holy Mother, is so important on our planet. So it's not something that we take really lightly. This is deep and powerful and challenging work. Hello. So let's talk about some flower essences because I really want to support you to change some of these inner beliefs. So lobelia flower essence is one of my favorite for just like really helping to speak, to be assertive, to have that access of, we can look at it in two different ways, either the divine masculine or we can look at it as the fierce feminine, of just being able to take what's in your heart, to take your longings, to take your desires and put them out into the world. Whether, again, that's with your partner, with your work, with your children, whatever it is, with your family, to say, no, this is what I believe to be true. And this is what I stand for. And this is what I want. Whatever it is, lobelia is amazing. And then we have other essences for what's deeper. So let's say it's an issue of your own self-worth. Missouri primrose or buttercup are amazing flower essences to start to enhance your level of worthiness, to start to enhance your level of deservability. We also have marshmallow, which is, I mean, if you think about like an actual marshmallow you cook on the campfire, but this is marshmallow flour. But marshmallow helps us to soften. Sometimes part of why we're not communicating really with integrity is because we have a big armor up from past wounds, from past pains, from how people have spoken to us in the past. And so marshmallow just kind of softens this armor. It allows us to soften into the feminine so that we're able to speak more clearly and we're coming from a place of our love. Hyssop is another flower essence for guilt. So again, if you're finding that part of why you don't communicate is because you're a people pleaser or a caretaker and you put your needs last, or you don't want to hurt anyone or disappoint anyone, then hyssop is an amazing flower essence. Guilt is such a deep, deep imprint in who we are. And sometimes it's really hard to access because it's so much deeper than all of our limiting beliefs that are more percolating on the surface. So hyssop is spelled Hyssop. It's part of the mint family, and it's an amazing one for guilt. Let's see. There's also snapdragon, which if you've ever seen the flower, it looks like an open mouth. It's really cool. I thought maybe I had some growing in my backyard, but I don't, so I was going to show you some. But again, it's to help the throat chakra really open. And so again, we're wanting this channel between the heart and the throat to be as open and as healed as possible so that you're always coming from love. Let's see, do you have any questions about anything I've talked about? You can type them as we go. I'm just going to check the time. Okay, we're at 30 minutes, but I'm totally happy to stay. Lobelia, marshmallow, hyssop, snapdragon. Yes, thank you. Again, this is a conversation I'm totally open to having over and over. And if you try some of these things and they work, fantastic. If you try some of these things and you think, oh, I feel like I missed something, or I'd like a little bit of a deeper piece of this, then please share with us, because I really want to make sure all of this is landing for you, because as you know, I feel really passionate about this topic, and I know that the internal struggle that so many of you are feeling about communicating or really being heard by other people. That I want to make sure you're coming from love, you're coming from, or if you need to, that sacred pause, you're accessing the divine feminine, you're tapping into intimacy and vulnerability in yourself, and you're really, really owning your desires. And I know that's it's one of the biggest issues for women, mothers. We hear that very similar stories over and over, like, how can I ask for my needs to be met? Or I don't even know what my needs are. And this is the place when we're communicating, we have to know what our needs are. Because that's what usually we're asking from. Or that's the place we're making the ask about. So if you are one of these women that are just, if you don't even know what your needs are, and this is really common, so there's no judgment, but if you're like, I don't even know what my needs are to even ask for them, what I would say is start doing a journaling practice where every night you write down 10 things that you desire. And this can be really small. This can be like, I want to wake up and have a cup of yummy tea. This could be, I desire to go for a walk tomorrow. I desire to not get stressed out. Or maybe you put it in the positive of, I desire to be relaxed. And you write 10 things, and they could be huge. They could be, I desire to meet Oprah, or I desire to move to a tropical island. They can be anything. Don't let your mind filter whatever is coming through. So every night, you just write 10 desires. And it helps you to get into the space of tuning in to what your heart is longing for, what your soul is whispering to you. And pretty soon you'll be able to, again, come from that place. So what I'm going to invite you all to do, because I think it's important during the waxing moon, again, is all about our ability to be in our heads and to start to put things in action for the full moon, which is all about the being outward space. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to, right now, if you need to close your eyes, you can, but right now think of one person that you feel really ready to communicate with, or that you know you need to communicate with. And this could be somebody who it's going to be somewhat easeful. This could be someone you know the conversation might be a little bit more uncomfortable for you. And I just want to presence this piece of, sometimes things are uncomfortable. Sometimes in our growth, things are uncomfortable. So if you're looking for ways to not be uncomfortable, this path of your own evolution may not be the path for you. If you start a conversation with somebody and you're speaking from your heart and you feel like your voice trembling and you maybe feel some tears come up and you feel a little anxiety and fear, just know that that's normal. Know that you're taking a stand and living from courage. Know that you're doing something that's pushing the edges of your comfortability. And ultimately, it's going to be incredible for you. And what's on the other side is freedom. When we torture ourselves for so long by holding everything in, and we finally have the opportunity to release it, it's pretty magical. It's pretty amazing. So call on all of us. When you're in that space and you're pushing your edges and you're feeling uncomfortable, think about all of us. This is a global sisterhood of women doing this work, and we got you, girl. We all need to be held by other women. And when you do it, I have the invitation to do it. When I do it, I give you permission to do it. We're really all in this together, and it's so important to know that. So if you're uncomfortable, just know it's part of it. And once you get to the other side, you're going to take such a deep breath and know that you did it. And every time you go to communicate, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. I promise. Because you're getting to expand, just like this waxing moon is asking us. You're getting to expand into who you are. So no more pieces that are untruths are kind of having you like this. You're like, these these are my needs, these are my desires, this is what I love, this is who I am. That's so great. Living from courage and love, yes. Being true and honest, yes. We are supported, yes, yes, totally. Thank you. So, my so my invitation to you is to choose somebody that you're feeling really a deep need to connect with, to communicate with, to speak clearly with, and make it a sacred act. So if that means that you need to sit at your altar before you communicate with them, if that means you need to kind of write down some ideas, if that means that you do a meditation on your heart so that you're coming from your heart and it's spoken through your mouth and your lips, whatever it is that you need, do this for yourself. Do it over and over and over and over. Take the flower essences. Call on your sisters. Call on the divine that you are. So I hope that that's all really helpful for you. I'm so happy that we got to be together. And it's always so hard to leave because I love being live with all of you and feeling you all and your love and your desires of wanting to communicate really fluidly. So again, maybe a couple of you type in who you're going to talk to, because I think that's sometimes we need the witnessing. So who you're going to talk to this week, what your commitment is, and then you can let us know how it all goes. But this is just your opportunity to speak from your heart. You feel so empowered right now. Great, Val. Yay. Your sister, Marilyn, your honey. Thank you so much. I love you all. Thank you. My biggest prayer is that you seriously communicate from your deepest heart, from your deepest needs, your sister, your husband. Yes, all of these people are going to feel where you're coming from. And just your estranged uncle, oh, so beautiful. What deep healing. What deep healing. Thank you so much, sister. Your friend Andrew, your partner. Yes. Can you imagine a world where we're all communicating so clearly? Your mom, yes. Mamas and daughters, we need that deep healing of our communication and deep vulnerability. And so please, I'm just going to leave you again with these final pieces of making sure you're being crystal clear. Like clearer than you think you're being clear in your communication, be even clearer. What exactly do you want from this conversation? What exactly do you need from this conversation? What is it that your heart is yearning to speak and share? That's the space. And so again, it might be easeful, it might be totally uncomfortable, just be in it. It is your path to your reclamation, your liberation, your freedom, and we're all here. All these hearts are here, just like, yes, 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 yes. So I bow to you. I bow to you in your courage. I hope we can do this again soon. Me too. I'm thinking about maybe doing another one next week for the holidays and maybe doing some meditation on gratitude or something like that, because we all need more and more of that. And but really, I just feel so honored, and I really adore each of you, and I'm holding you in the highest light, and for your highest relationship and relationships. And I'm sending you so much love.